Welcome to Leading with Joy, Conversations with C-Suite Leaders series, where we engage with business leaders to hear their stories and to discuss their strategies on business building. Our goal is to help investors gain deeper insights into these businesses and to understand them better. Today, we're pleased to speak with Mr. Arthur Lang, Group CFO of Singtel. Thank you for joining us today, Mr. Arthur.
Oh, thank you, Hazel, for having me. Thank you.
Right, so maybe you can start off by sharing more about yourself first and your role
Sure.
at Singtel.
Well, I'm Arthur Lang. I'm the Group CFO of Singtel. I've been with Singtel probably this is my 8th year. I just finished my 3 years as Group CFO. So under the CFO function, I do all the usual whatever CFOs typically do. But I also have oversight what we call the international group, which is taking care of all our regional associates and joint ventures. That's been actually quite exciting and quite meaningful for me.
All right, we can talk a little bit more about the Singtel's multiple business segments that you have. Right?
Sure.
So a lot of investors right now,
Yes.
they still associate Singtel primarily with connectivity
That
and
is
see it
true.
as just only a telco.
Yes.
So could you share with us more about Singtel's core business segments as well as the latest business update for
Sure.
third quarter FY 2025?
Okay, no problem. You're right. I think people generally think of us as predominantly a connectivity or telco business. But the fact of the matter is, I always like to kind of remind people, despite our name Singtel, we are more than just Singapore and more than just telco, right? In fact, Singapore is probably about 20% of our total profits. We are in many locations like India, Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, Australia, and in different parts of the world. And we're definitely not just a telco. We have a very sizable IT services business. We have a very sizable data center business. And also with our partnership with Grab, we also own 3 digital banks in Southeast Asia. So really, quite an interesting spread of businesses. But it's really focused on really the increasing digitalization of the region. Connectivity is very important, but so is the other parts of the value chain like IT services as well as digital infrastructure and data centers.
I see.
So on, you asked me about our
Business,
third quarter business,
yes.
right? We just finished our 9 months, the third quarter. It's been a strong performance, right? I think we started the year guiding the market, our EBIT, earnings before interest and tax. We were saying that we would probably, for this financial year, improve EBIT by high single digits to low double digits. So that's probably anywhere between 8 and 12 or 8 and 13%. Then after our first half numbers, we said, well, lower teens. We upped it a bit. So we said, okay, maybe call it 10 to 13%, low teens. But we just announced our results and we actually registered for the 9 months a 20% improvement in EBIT. So we've actually increased our guidance to low, or rather high teens, low 20s EBIT growth for our full financial year. Which means that, by the end of March, which is our financial year,
Yes.
we expect EBIT to grow anywhere between, call it, 17, 18% to around 22, 23%. So it's been a strong showing. And I don't recall, it's been a while, at least during my time as CFO, 3+ years, this is the strongest EBIT growth that we have seen.
That's
Yes.
really great to hear.
Yes, we're very thankful about that. Yes,
Right.
thank you.
So
Yeah.
moving on to how Singtel stands out from its competition, right?
Yeah.
We do know that in the telco space, competition is rather intense,
Yes.
especially with the emerging technologies and new players.
Yes.
So how does Singtel differentiates its core businesses in Singapore and in Australia, and by leveraging on the infrastructure, the partnerships, and also the
Yes.
digital capabilities for growth?
Correct. You're right. I think I given my career, I've been in banking, I've been in real estate, so I've been in telco. I can tell you the telco industry is probably the most competitive industry that I've been in so far. But what are we doing, right? Whatever it is, we need to acknowledge that we are in a very competitive sector. In every market we're in, we definitely have a few players, and there's always, pricing decisions that have to be made, reactions to the market and our competition is very highly regulated. CapEx
Right.
spending is very high. So we always need to be very nimble, agile, make quick decisions, being able to strategize very well. So how do we actually do this? Like in Singapore, it's really differentiating our network. So I think for mobile users, 5G is the next big technology now.
Yes.
It is very important for us to always have very good network connectivity. And so what we did was just recently, we got some new spectrum, and we're the first in Singapore to acquire this across our competition. We are using this spectrum now for all our mobile services, particularly on 5G. And we actually launched this new program, which is called 5G Plus, right? Which is basically allowing better connectivity in really hard to reach places, like indoor buildings, like, we're in here, maybe in the MRT stations, in this kind of places. So we want seamless connectivity for our customers. So that's how we really differentiate ourselves from having a superior network. Also, there'll be interesting things that we are testing, because Singapore has what we call a standalone 5G network. So as a result of that, we're able to slice up the 5G according to different speeds. So it's like having a fast lane and an expressway. So if you're on that 5G fast lane, you'll be, have uninterrupted or very fast connectivity. We tried that in National Day parades. At the Taylor Swift concert, we allowed some of our customers to try this fast lane kind of connectivity, and so people were very excited because they'll be able to record Taylor Swift in action and then immediately press upload onto their Instagram. They'll be the fastest to upload, and they look very good, right? Because they're first having a video up online. In Australia, you talked about partnerships. About maybe slightly less than a year ago, we announced a partnership with the number 3 player, TPG, to really in the rural and certain parts of Australia to share the network. So what we have done is basically we struck a deal with TPG where they will pay us $1.1 billion for a period of time, over a period of time, and they will use our network that we have already built up. In the big outback, in certain rural areas, the network tends not to be fully utilized. So it makes sense to share the network and get paid for it, right, by a partner. Of course, in the cities, each of us will have our own networks. So these are some of the interesting things that we are doing to really differentiate and position ourselves in the connectivity business.
Right, that's really interesting.
Yes. Yeah.
So Nxera and NCS have been highlighted as the key growth engines for Singtel.
Yes.
So how are they driving Singtel's future growth? And also with the boom in AI trend, how does Singtel's data center business differentiate itself from the other players in the market?
Okay. No, you're right. I think NCS, which is our IT services business, as well as Nxera, which is our data center business, is really leveraging on the trend that we are seeing, this trend that is continuing to improve and keep increasing. It's really the trend of digitalization by enterprises, small or big. So companies around the world or in Asia particularly are trying to digitalize their businesses. They will always need help. So that's where NCS comes in. So whether it's to digitalize your HR processes or do facial recognition for security purposes, all that NCS can do. In fact, so that's exactly what NCS has been doing for the past few years, and we're starting to see a lot of different projects relating to that. For digital infrastructure or data center business is obvious. It's even before ChatGPT came out a while ago, people needed all the hyperscalers, the TikToks of the world, the Instagrams. You need compute, you need storage power. So data center was very important. And then with AI coming, it really took the industry to another much higher level, right? So we're seeing actually a lot of opportunities here. In fact, I would say the data center space we're still at the beginning. Right, and I think that's where I think the opportunity is quite immense. For NCS particularly, if you look at our third quarter or the first 9 months, you see margins starting to improve. It is really because we are really executing more efficiently. Our cost structure has come down. We are scaling up the business. We are reducing our delivery costs to actually execute for our customers. The other bit is Australia. You might recall about 2 years plus, NCS made some acquisitions in Australia to grow into that market. It's an area that we're very focused on. It started out we had a lot of obstacles, but I say more recently, we're starting to see a nice turnaround in our Australia business. For our data center business, it's really all about constructing and then bringing in contracts and then getting the EBITDA, right? So in Singapore, we will hopefully be completing our Tuas data center early next year. we actually have secured quite a few contracts already. In fact, we've collected reservation fees for some of them. Our Thai data center as well, we've also had some very good contracts. I think right now our Thai data center is 30% filled, although it's going to be completed, I think, middle of next year. But I am quite confident in a few weeks' time you'll see better numbers from us. I don't think I can share them yet, but the contracting, the amount of capacity that's been contracted, I think is something that we are actually very pleasantly surprised by. So I would say these two have really contributed to the growth in our earnings. And as I mentioned, there are a lot of trends that give us a lot of tailwinds, right? So particularly in AI, I think we're seeing a lot of interest there.
Right. So these are the segments that are definitely going to be very exciting.
Yes, I for sure. But I do not want to downplay my colleagues who are looking at the connectivity and telco businesses, because if you look at that business, right, I talked about the 20% growth in EBIT. One of the key drivers for that growth is really our Australian business, Optus. We went through a few challenging years for Optus. Finally, I would say maybe by middle of last year, we are starting to see a nice uplift. So I'm actually very relieved, right, and very happy to see on a quarter-on-quarter basis, there's a nice steady momentum in the business. We are seeing some build-up in the mobile space and the consumer segment, as well as enterprise segment. If you look at our other footprint, India is doing very well. Our Thai business through AIS is also doing very well. I think we'll see that there's still growth in the connectivity business. So far it looks that a lot of our engines are firing up, and it's good that it's a bit diversified by geography as well as by the different lines of businesses.
Right.
Yes.
And I understand that last year, May, Singtel actually announced the Singtel28 strategy.
Correct.
Right. And there has been some changes in the dividend policy.
Correct.
So could you share with us more about Singtel's dividend policy?
Sure.
And how does the company actually strike a balance between
good point.
dividends and reinvestment for the growth initiatives, especially that the company is focusing on long-term sustainability under Singtel28?
Okay, good point. So ST28 or Singtel28, there you can see that sign there. It's really the overall riding objective is to create sustainable value for our shareholders. And through that, a lot of our shareholders actually like to get dividends from us. So our dividend policy got changed to reflect that it is our intention to actually grow dividends on a sustainable basis, right? So it has to grow, but we need to make sure it is sustainable. Now, in order to make it sustainable, we cannot never ever borrow money to pay out dividend. That one definitely not sustainable. But the other one that's important is the sustainability of the dividend has to come from the growth in our operating businesses. So to your point, you're absolutely right. We need to take some excess capital and reinvest back into the business. So let's say, we as you all know, we sold about 49% in our HQ comm center, right? We took that money and we reinvested back into the business. We put some money into Australia for NCS. We put some money back into building out our 5G network. We also put some money to expand our data center business. We brought in KKR to take a 20-25% stake in Nxera, also to reinvest back into the build out and the growth of our data center business. So that's how we can make sure our dividends are sustainable, because the business has to grow. And not only just the business, of course, the cash flows and the profit also have to improve. So that's why, based on that, we came out with a new dividend policy where we say 70 to 90% of our underlying net profit. That's the real profit, not the excluding one-offs and exceptional items and all that. 70 to 90% will be paid out as a core dividend. So even if we say every year we only pay 85% of underlying profit, if the underlying profit grows at 85%, the dividend will also grow, right? So that's what we need to do. We need to reinvest back. We need to look at costs and cut costs to improve the underlying net profit. Now, on top of that, we also, as you know, Singtel has a lot of what I call latent assets with latent value that we can illuminate, right? So I talked about our HQ. We sold some Australian towers a few years ago. Our data center business, we sold down a bit of Airtel. And all this is what I call the unappreciated or latent value that can be realized. So that is where we said, okay, we unlock some of the value, take some of that value and return it to investors, right? Through what we call a value realization dividend. So we have said that every year we will pay 3 to 6 cents of VRD on top of our core dividend. That 3 to 6 cents will be returned to shareholders. And we said we probably can sustain this for at least 5 years, right? So 3 to 6 cents for 5 years is about $2.5 to $5 billion, right? But we have a pipeline that we're expecting of 6 billion, and you see what we have done. I think in the last 3+ years, we've recycled easily more than $8 billion already. So I think this can be sustained. So the key word is sustainable, and the other word is grow sustainably. So I described the two buckets of our dividend policy, right? The core dividend, 70 to 90%, as well as our VRD, 3 to 6 cents, and hopefully we can do this for at least 5 years, right? So all that, these two buckets will add up to our total ordinary dividend. So last financial year, we announced for fiscal year 24, we announced a total dividend, ordinary dividend of 15 cents. When we announced our third quarter results, we guided the market that we will pay around 16.5 cents for this financial year. So it's a nice improvement for 15 cents. Now, around 16.5 can be slightly lower, can be slightly higher. I hope it's slightly higher, and we shall see once we announce our full year results.
Right, investors will be glad to know that.
Okay, that's very good to know.
And very lastly, I believe an organization's culture and the leadership are critical to its long-term success.
I completely agree.
Right.
Yes,
So how does Singtel's leadership cultivate a joyful, innovative, yet resilient culture here amid the challenges and opportunities?
Okay, well, joyful, innovative, resilient. Okay, that's a lot. But jokes aside, I think our culture can be encapsulated in our purpose statement. Empower every generation, right? Actually, it's a very simple purpose statement when we came out with it. 3 words, but each word has a lot of meaning, right? Empower is really giving the ability and the responsibility to everyone to empower them to create an impact. And I think this matters a lot because when people feel that they have that responsibility, they will actually execute on it, and that's where you can bring people together and align on a common objective. The second word is every. Every is literally every, right? Everyone has a role to play in building up the company. It sounds like a National Day song, but everyone has a part, right? From the most junior person to the most senior person, from the youngest to the oldest, any type of background, any type of role, I think every person has to feel empowered. And then generation, to me, is actually the most meaningful word because it overlays everything on what we are doing, right? And it focuses on the long term. And I think this is very important in this day and age where you have, external forces, one time it says, we need to focus on sustainability. And another point in time, it says, sustainability is not that important. But what we are doing is forget all the box checking and all that, whether we meet certain standards. The fundamental thing is we've got to build a business that will last generations, right? And that's very important because we want our company to do well, right? Not just for this generation of people, for my children. They may not join Singtel, but at least they will benefit from being a Singtel customer or hopefully a shareholder as well, right? So that's very important to make sure that the business we're in continues to go on generation after generation. And that includes things like, what we do for the environment, what we do for the community, what we do for our customers, because building reputation takes generations, right? It's not, you can't just build it overnight, right? So that's, I think that really just summarizes our culture. And I think the other part of our culture is, for me personally, I like to really promote what I call the kampung spirit, right? It's we cannot just say, I belong to this group, I belong to that group, I only care for my group, right? We should think of one Singtel, like a kampung, right? Which sometimes means that you yourself will get inconvenience, like a kampung, right? If let's say, I don't know, like your neighbor's house, got flooded or something, you have to inconvenience yourself by helping your neighbor or ask your neighbor come over to your place and stay for a while, right? That's a true kampung. So that's what we are, the type of culture that we hope to perpetuate within the organization.
Thank you, Mr. Atta, for the very insightful sharing.
Oh, thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Hazel. I always enjoy doing this.
We're definitely looking forward to more exciting updates from Singtel.
Good.